Welcome back to Craftardia and the not so shitty castle. Today we will be finishing this settlement. First I wanted to fix the design and improve the floors because I finally did the quest for the castle and the Minutemen cleared out the godforsaken nests, so I had more freedom when placing floors around half the castle. So the first thing that I needed to do was remove this stupid floor on the castle wall that was just awkwardly sticking out. Once removed, I realized that this part of the wall wasn't floored. There were no nests anymore, so I had a relatively clear path where I could put a decent amount of floors and make everything even and wonderful. I managed to nicely place the floors over this entire wall side and put the fence as well. It looks much better than before because nothing is sticking out anymore and it is very fluid. I also placed stairs on the side because there was a path that led downstairs, and since the floors made things quite elevated, stairs were necessary to climb up. I'm not a big fan of this particular design, but it is definitely better than before. Ideally, I would like to see stone stairs and oval corner stairs added to the game. It seems like these additions would improve any settlement immensely, since people really like building platforms and multiple level settlements, so stairs are very important. Continuing from the path that I added, we came to the corner of the castle wall that was covered with floors because there were eggs in the hole, but since the Minutemen cleared that shit out, I decided to remove the walls and leave this hole as it is. I changed the fence so it is placed on the very corner of the castle wall. Manually, of course. Placing fences manually brings pain to my soul because it is so inconsistent and awkward, especially if you want to place them next to an existing floor or platform, but I managed to get it done. Since I was reasonably satisfied with this section of the wall, I continued walking over the dirt. I decided to leave this section as it is, because this dirt-grass mix is very good for your knees, much better than wooden platforms, and I care about my people. Their knees are important, especially if they like sucking dicks. In the next corner, I had also previously covered the hole. I removed the floors and did the same thing as before, manually fenced off the area. After finishing the fences, I went to the other side of the castle wall and I was slightly irritated because this bridge wasn't as wide as the rest of the path. I'm not sure why I didn't make the bridge of the proper width initially, but now I went ahead and did that. When that was done, I was pretty much finished with the castle wall. I didn't really want to do any more improvements, so I went down and considered adding the power generators to get things going. But then I went to this hallway on the ground, and I realized that this room that I left available led to my ass, and I assure you my ass doesn't lead anywhere. So I pretty much added another elevated floor to completely close off this area to prevent confusion by the residents. I had slight issues with the floors above this area because snapping and clipping is a cunt, but I managed to place them properly, and I added an unreachable safe behind the shack because Kevin Spacey told me to do so, and you do not question Kevin Spacey. Once that was done, I looked to my right and noticed that the bridge over the collapsed wall didn't really look great. That annoyed me quite a bit. I went up and replaced the normal floors with the elevated floors. But then when I went back, I noticed that these elevated floors made my guard post area suitable only for midgets. I didn't delete all of the floors, only the 4 right above the post, and then placed normal floors. This made my guard post look much better since the elevated floors made the area look sturdier. But now my walls in this area didn't make sense, so I removed them and managed to actually place nice walls. I mean, it didn't go smoothly of course, because fuckery happens pretty much every time when you try to do something creative in this game, but I did manage to figure something out. This bridge was finished and it all looked nice, but now I noticed the other bridge, above the main entrance to the castle. I mentioned in my previous video that I didn't like the gap between the doors and the bridge, so I wanted to fix that. My solution was to simply lower the bridge to the door level. In my head this seemed really simple. I would just start placing floors lower and things would fit together. Of course, things that happen in my head have nothing to do with reality, and it took me good 20 minutes to figure this one out. I deleted the bridge and the entrance walls and doors, and I placed an elevated floor on one side of the entrance. This elevated floor would allow me to build the bridge above the entrance, while also allowing me to place walls and doors underneath. I fenced it off and added a single metal doorway with 2 metal walls. Things fit pretty nicely. Everything that you've seen me do so far took 56 minutes to complete. I was finally done with the castle design, and now it was time to start adding power and other stuff to it. I went inside the castle and picked the big room in the middle as the generator room. I placed 5 generators inside and connected them all together. Since I had no access to the main power line, I had to add a power conduit on the wall, and then connected the wire to it to get access. All of the lights lit up and I suddenly had enough power and water for the entire settlement. Since I didn't really like the generator in the middle of my castle powering up the radio transmitter, I wanted to remove it and connect the radio with a wire from inside the castle. I don't know why, but I couldn't do this, it just refused to transfer power to it. My only assumption is that the power conduit can only let a certain amount of power through, and since the radio needed 10 power, I couldn't power it up that way, so I created a little room that would hold the generator and connected it the same as before. Next step was food. Since food could only be placed on dirt, I didn't have a lot of space to do this, so I placed carrots and corn right next to the workbench and 3 mud fruit plants on the opposite side right next to the elevated floor. I fenced off both areas and I didn't add a gate to the openings, I just left it as it is. I figured there's no need to add gates since they're both very small farms in a very isolated place. Once the food was taken care of, I went and placed a recruitment beacon inside the generator area next to the transmitter. I also added a small generator to power it, since connecting the wire from inside the castle didn't work. After going inside the castle, I wanted to use these sections to separate different crafting and trading posts. The first one was the chemistry area. Going to the right, this is the power armor, and then the armory area. The next room is the room for beds. I added a bunch of beds just for the time being, but I would return later to fix it up a bit. After leaving the room, I went to the opposite side, and after passing the chemistry area, I decided to make the next area for cooking. I placed both the cooking station and stove, but I also wanted to place the big cooking station. Since this area wasn't big enough for it, I swapped it around with the rest of the cooking stuff, and then it managed to fit. The next section is for first aid, which was already placed. Now it was time to start placing stores. I put a drink stand right next to the stairs that lead up to the castle wall. Theoretically, this seems like a really bad idea, because if someone accidentally trips while going down the stairs, they're gonna crash into the stand. This theory doesn't work well in this game though, because this drink stand can't be destroyed even by a mini-nuke, let alone by a drunk Minuteman. I placed an armor stand opposite to the power armor station, and then I went outside and placed a trading shop next to the castle room's entrance. I climbed up the elevated floor and placed a couple of extra shops in the area that seemed relatively empty. I was done with the stores and I assigned a few Minutemen to a few different guard posts so my defense stops being red. Most things were done by now, I had 2 rooms left to fix. First I went to fix the common room, a place where people could come and relax a bit. I added a few couches, some shelves and a pool table. I don't want my citizens to waste their time watching post-apocalyptic TV, I prefer for them to play some pool. I just hope that they won't put pool sticks up their butts due to lack of porn. I think that is a genuine concern, especially in a post-apocalyptic environment. And finally the room with the beds. I deleted all of them and I wanted to add a bathroom section to it. So I walled off the left side of the room and added a bathtub, a toilet and a cabinet. On the other side I placed a few beds. They're gonna spend most of their time sleeping here, so there is no need to add anything else to it. I added beds, closets and doors to both shacks. These shacks are reserved for settlement members that wish to put sticks in their butts in private. I went outside the castle and added a door to the entrance. Putting this entrance door signified the completion of the entire castle settlement. So finally, the castle entrance now has a proper entrance. There are no gaps and there is a bridge above it. The collapsed wall area now looks sturdier than before. There are a few elevated floors that are fucking up the outer design, but hey man, I'm working with what I've got, and I got a lot of sticks up my butt by now due to all the frustrations that base building is giving me in this game. The inner area of the castle has this elevated floor with a few shops and 2 shacks that are reserved for extra kinky members. The ground area of the castle has a small carrot and corn farm and a few mudfruit plants on the other side. The radio transmitter has a dedicated power source that is hidden behind a wall. This wall also hides the recruitment beacon that has its own power source as well. When entering the castle, the first thing that can be seen are chemistry stations. Going right, there is a power armor station, an armor shop, and an armor workbench. The next room contains beds and a bathroom separated with walls and a dedicated door. The other side of the castle contains a large cooking station, small cooking station and stove, the power room followed by a first aid station, weapon shop, drink stand, and it ends with the common room that has a few couches, shelves and a pool table. I think it is worth mentioning that thanks to my Craftardia videos, my channel has seen the biggest growth in its history. It brings me a lot of joy that so many of you bastards are enjoying these videos, and I will do my best to continue bringing useful and entertaining stuff for you to watch in the future. Don't be afraid to post suggestions, questions, and general positive comments that will inflate my ego. They are always appreciated. My next project will be creating a classic Eastern European building, and I hope that you will be interested. I have been Petard, your glorious lord, and I shall see you next time.